We purchased Flat Bottom Grill, formerly known as Rau Christina, back in May of 2022. We knew at the time there were several issues that we would eventually need to deal with, namely a leaky bow thruster and a good clean and repaint of the hull. We've got all the paint and supplies loaded on board, and today we're heading to the historic port of Hellevoetsluis to get the boat lifted out of the water. There aren't many boatyards near us that can lift a 32-ton vessel, and the yards there have a very good reputation for quality workmanship. The irony is that while Hellevoetsluis is an easy 20-minute drive by car from us, by boat it's over 5 hours away. We'll turn right once we clear our first lock onto the Odenmaas, and then turn west once we reach the River Spew. It was a pretty good day on the water, until it wasn't. At one point we were slammed with a surprise squall. For a short time the visibility became so bad we couldn't even see the end of the boat, and this is where we had to stop filming. The nice thing about this country being so flat is that weather systems usually pass pretty quickly, and after 15 minutes of white knuckles we were back to patchy blue sky, but it stayed quite windy. The high winds, in combination with the shallow waters, resulted in short steep waves, which left us pitch rolling the remainder of our voyage. But we did eventually make it to the boat lift, where we would spend the night on the water and get lifted out first thing in the morning. Next morning was beautiful and the blue skies were back. We've had all of our boats lifted at one point or another, and watching it happen is never not pucker-inducing. After a quick scrape and power wash of the hull, we were to be moved into the boathouse, where the real work would begin. Only then did we find that because of our boat's unique hull shape, that the yard's motorized dolly wouldn't work for us. And that meant we couldn't get into the boathouse, and we need to work on the boat outside. Since we were no strangers to working on boats, our original plan was to strip and repaint the boat ourselves. The problem being, the last time I took a job on this size, I was still in my 40s. That was quite some time ago. Once we realized the true scope of this job, and the fact that we'd be working outside underneath the boat for days on end, we opted to have the yard do the job for us. It was a major kick in the wallet that we weren't expecting, but in the end, it was all worth it. The crew did an outstanding job, and we wouldn't spend half as much as we thought on aspirin. We'd originally thought we'd be out of the water for possibly 5 or 6 days, but with weather delays and labor availability, our time on the hard stretched to 17 days, and we were living on board the boat the entire time. Not a big deal, but the yard facilities consisted of one single toilet. This resulted in a daily drive back to our home port of Brila for showers and laundry. Although Flat Bottom Girl has had her bottom scraped and power washed, she'll now get her bottom hydroblasted to remove any loose paint and rust scale. Hydroblasting is basically a power washer, except it's powerful enough to turn you into a skeleton in just a few minutes. The noise was deafening, but man, it sure was effective.
Wow.
Watching the ease with which these guys jockey the boats around the yard was pretty impressive. We had a crew of 4 sand, scrape, and then apply 3 coats of epoxy primer before the bottom paint and anti-fouling was applied. This should do us for at least another 5 years. I will say this is the cleanest and best maintained boatyard I have ever seen. The huge boathouses here had all manner of vessels in varying states of refit. Commercial boats, day sailors, cruisers, and full-on race boats. There was even a very rare Grand Banks 42 sedan, the only one I've ever seen this size. We met some pretty amazing people during our stay, including Tom and his dad, who were completely stripping and restoring a small steel cruiser and converting her to electric propulsion. No small or simple undertaking. I even got roped into helping out with their boot stripe. For some strange reason, they seemed to think I knew what I was doing. Their dedication was impressive, to say the least. Not only is this a full-service boatyard and storage facility, they're also builders. Van Shipyards makes a stunning high-end aluminum cruising catamaran. They offer 3 models. The one in the fabrication shop is obviously one of their bigger models. I think the one in the water is the smallest. Just a bit of a step up from our old Hobie Cat. The bottom paint is now complete, and it's up to me to finish the job by painting above the waterline in the new colors. Here, the guys and their apprentice are repairing our leaky bow thruster. More on that later. total of 8 new aluminum anodes were installed, and unlike our previous coastal boats which use zinc anodes, because we're in freshwater here, aluminum is used. One surprise we had was the discovery of a pinhole-sized leak directly under the engine. No idea how it got there. It wasn't rust, and it appeared to be a puncture from the outside. I had to stand guard in the engine bay with a fire extinguisher at the ready while the welding was being done. A quick patch welded in place sorted it out. And here she is with her new colors, all ready to get wet again. We got to ride on board while she was moved into the water, something we've never been allowed to do in Canada, and it felt pretty weird. Well, this is a first.
It's not very comfortable. Feels very strange.
Feels very foreign.
It does. We're going this way. And a little this way. Oh, there's Tom.
And with that, our 17-day holiday in the boatyard came to an end. Now just the 5.5-hour trip back to Brila. Thankfully, the trip home was a bit more pleasant than the one we had coming down. The one in front of us, his name is Pizzed Off. P-I-Z-D-O-F-F. When we arrived at the lock, we found it had been put into winter operation and we had missed the opening window. Not a problem. We'd simply tie up at the lay-by and wait for opening the following morning. couple of days after returning to Brila, we noticed the boat started to smell a bit musty, and we were getting some condensation on the windows. After some investigating, we found the seal on the recently repaired bow thruster had failed, and we were getting a lot of water in the bilge. This meant lifting up all the floors to make sure we got all the water out. We did a temporary fix in the bow thruster to stop the leak. We had several fans and a dehumidifier running to really dry out the interior. Of course, this means Flat Bottom Grill will be heading back to the boatyard to have the repairs re-repaired. I will say, this was a bit disheartening considering what we'd just been through. And since we already had the floors up, we figured this would be a good time, not that there actually is a good time, to replace all the sanitary hose for the toilet. I'll spare you the details. In the meantime, we really needed a break. So we hopped in the car and drove 2 hours east to visit friends of ours who were just beginning their own journey into barge ownership. Kevin and Shan have recently purchased what will eventually be a pretty impressive vintage canal barge that they have renamed Musin. They purchased the vessel in a state of partial refit, with most of the nuts and bolts work already complete. They're making the boat truly their own by reconfiguring the interior and outfitting her with new systems from stem to stern. To the uninitiated, she may not look like much in her current state, but this is a seriously well-built boat. She's had great attention to detail in her refit so far. The boat even comes with one of the legendary Cromhout diesel engines. Personally, I'm happy to hear they're keeping the steel galley cabinets, something I've not seen before, and frankly, I'm a bit jealous. Nijmegen is one of the oldest cities in the country, and despite this fact, it's also one of the most vibrant, due in no small part to it being a university town. We spent a short time exploring the streets and waterfront of Nijmegen with a stop at Versailles Liquor, a superbly curated whiskey and spirits vendor, where if you're nice, you can usually try some free tasting samples, just like Costco.
Thank you.
In the center. Yeah, not
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Thank
We
you.
good?
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We ended the day with a walk along a private mooring close to their Airbnb. These docks were home to some truly stunning, restored vintage workboats, one of which was owned by the gentleman who's doing much of the work on Kevin and Shan's barge. Our visit with Shan and Kevin really was an ideal way to cap off our 2023 season, and this town will certainly be on our list to revisit when we're back in the spring.
So this one's pretty wild. It was the most stunningly finished boat, like both in its authenticity and the craftsmanship of it. Oh my God, what a beautiful boat. I was just dying to, can we see your boat?
This guy's got a defibrillator on board.
So they do, he does tours.
Ah.
They take people out and stuff.
So it's hello, puppy. Hello. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't speak English. In the morning, we'll head back to Brila to lock up Flat Bottom Grove for the winter before we say goodbye. And that will about do it for this year. We'll fly back home to Vancouver and wait out the winter until we can return in the spring. Join us next time when we'll bore you with the whole story of just how we became canal boat owners. Thanks for watching.